What is up, ladies and gents? Noli here. Welcome to another Payday video. This is my Marksman skill and perk setup. This build is entirely focused around high accuracy, single fire, range and close range weapons. We're using the WA2000 and the Leo pistol, meaning we've got great options both at long range with the sniper rifle capabilities of the WA2000, medium range, it functions basically like a battle rifle depending on how you build and set it up, and then finally the Leo, an absolute monster at close range with incredible magazine size. So this really is one of the more powerful builds I've ever made. It's Deathwish focused, it's going to absolutely destroy if you put it on overkill, you won't feel challenged. So I'm a huge fan of this build. It's not too out of the ordinary, it's not too unusual, there's not many skills in there that will surprise you. It's just a very straightforward build that I've been trying out, and it's been really made by the release of the Gage Sniper Pack, bringing out, of course, the very strong WA2000. So here we are, awkward introductions out of the way, let's talk about the skill build. Of course, starting off in Mastermind where the bulk of our skills are going to be found. We unlock it and then we move straight on up to Endurance. Such a standard skill used in most builds, it's really a necessity. Then we move on to Combat Medic. You'll notice we've got Inspire up there in the top right, so anything that's going to assist in our healing is going to be a great pickup. The format, by the way, of this, I'm going to run straight through the skills, I'm going to talk about each briefly, and then I'm going to talk about them in a little more depth in their application when I'm showing you guys that gameplay. So yeah, painkillers for the same reason, and also to push us on to further tiers of skills. Not a huge fan of painkillers, I actually think it's quite a weak skill that could do with a buff. Moving on up, we got Leadership. That stability is going to help both with the sniper rifle WA2000 we bring, and the Leo pistol. Those are of course the two weapons of choice on this build. Next up we've got Dominator. Just as important as the previous skills, basically as essential as Endurance on Deathwish if you ask me. Teammates are probably going to down 4 times on those harder missions. In many cases there are going to be no civilians for you to trade. You're going to need to dominate the enemy, use them as the hostage trade. So you need to ace this out. At least one member of your team needs to ace this out, more than one really, because if that's the member who goes into custody, you're never going to be able to get him back. So it's an essential skill for Deathwish. Moving on, we have Equilibrium. We're using a pistol, so we need to pick this up. Spotter. Basic this out, 15% more damage to special enemies. It's going to allow you to kill in fewer bullets with both the Leo and the WA2000 in certain scenarios. Coupled with the skill we'll see later on in Ghost, this can allow you to hit damage caps on certain enemies. Next up, we have Joker. Now, I actually really like this skill. Just basic it out. Use the Jokered enemy as a distraction. It's going to allow you to take out enemies like Shields, who, while you have the bullet penetration capability of the WA2000 as a sniper rifle, it's not ideal. You'd much rather get them straight to the back of the head as opposed to firing through the shield. The Jokered target acts as a perfect distraction to allow you to do that. Similarly with bulldozers and with tasers, it's going to be a wall of defense before they get through to you, because on Deathwish, a single bulldozer, a single taser, a single cloaker can be the end of your run. Next we have Gunslinger. Gunslinger, as I said already with Equilibrium, we've got a pistol, we need this skill. Kilmer, a more interesting sort of flavour skill added to the build. Kilmer's going to give me additional reload speed for my WA2000, which as you may have seen in my WA2000 weapon review, it's its only downside. The weapon is phenomenal in every single area bar reload speed. With Kilmer, it allows you to be a little lazier, shoot out all 10 bullets and reload with that extended animation. Next to that reduction, it's going to be basically the same as the short reload. And then the short reload is going to be even faster. So it makes the WA2000's only drawback basically non-existent. Kilmer is a must-have if you use that weapon, if you ask me. Finally, Inspire, probably the most important skill in the entire build, probably the best skill in the game, certainly is for Deathwish. If you ask me, you need 3 players on your team with this skill, minimum. 4 is even better. Inspire is so strong, Mastermind has enough great skills in it to warrant it. You really need Inspire. You'll notice in the gameplay on Meltdown I have Pistol Messiah. This is an interesting skill that you can couple into this build. For an overkill option, moving on to Deathwish, it's nowhere near as effective. You're not going to be revived with enough health. You're probably going to still have the same problems that took you out in the first place surrounding you. Don't recommend it. Much rather pick up more points in the Fugitive skill tree. Moving on over, we have Enforcer, Transporter, great skill, got to ace it out on every build. Another option though, when you've got a single point left over at the end of the build, is Pumping Iron. We're going to be using the Buzzer Melee, which is great for Deathwish. It gives you options even if you run out of ammo, which you're not likely to do, given that the Leo and the WA2000 have amazing innate ammo pickup. Almost overpowered, I would say, at least with the WA2000. So this is more of a flavor skill if you're a fan of melee and you want to bring the buzzer along. Pumping Iron is going to allow you to take out enemies that little bit faster. And of course, if you're in a 1v1 with an enemy, the buzzer is going to allow you to take them out no matter what because of these stun capabilities. Next up we have Technician. One of the most important skills in the entire skill build is Rifleman. You only need 2 points in Technician overall to pick this up, and yet it is so important. It gives you 100% faster snap to zoom, and it allows you to use the WA-2000 like the battle rifle it needs to be, at medium and close quarters, instead of having to rely on the randomness of no scopes. Being able to quickly scope in, take out a group of enemies is so important. Now we've got Ghost. Sprinter and Fast Hands, they're must-haves. Every build will have them. However, there are two potential flavor skills for your last point here. I've chosen Cleaner, give me 5% more damage innately against special enemies, again pushing me over kill thresholds that I wouldn't always already have. Coupled with Spotter, it's a great option. Then we have Shinobi, another potential. Just want to basic this out to increase your crouch speed by 10%. It goes really well with the duck and cover skill we'll see later on in the Fugitive, allowing you to move around that little bit faster crouched and maintain very, very high dodge. So that's it for Ghost. Let's move on up to the Fugitive skill tree. We've got Hidden Blade first and foremost on the bottom tier, increasing the melee concealment by 2. Very important when you see later on we have Sneaky Bastard and a bit of Low Blow. I ace this out simply to push me on to further rungs. Of course, I'm not going to be stealthing. May as well ace it out anyway. Now, we have a couple of basics here. We got Thick Skin, Daredevil, and Brother's Keeper. They're going to make small differences on certain missions. However, you're not going to notice their impact massively. They're mainly there, again, push you onto higher tiers. Duck and Cover, Run and Gun, two great and important skills. The additional movement speed is always great. I've already mentioned the additional dodge that Duck and Cover has and the additional application if you choose to pick up Shinobi in Ghost. But Run and Gun also has the aced effect of movement speed being unhindered while aiming down sight, allowing you to use the WA-2000 more versatilely, with greater versatility, allowing you to move around with it, quick scope, snipe, change position. Really great skill that allows you to be more of a scout sniper on the battlefield as opposed to just the marksman setting up the choke points. Now we have First Aid as our equipment of choice. Uppers and Quick Fix, of course, they're great skills. First Aid is a really good option, however it's not my preferred choice. I'd much rather have the medic kits for Deathwish simply because you get downed an awful lot more and you want to be able to reset those downs. Not saying First Aid isn't useful. Cloakers are very prominent and well, they're one of the best ways to deal with being just down by a cloaker, of course, filling your health back around to full again. And of course we don't have Grinder on this skill build, the perk deck is Rogue, so we need healing from some source, and this is one of the most convenient. You can of course drop them for your teammates as well. They're great and convenient. But like I said, I'd rather have medic kits. I sadly have to pick these up in order to move up to these high tier Fugitive skills, such as Low Blow. Now, I don't have enough concealment using the WA-2000 and the Leo to fully work with Low Blow. I have to basic out. There just aren't enough skill points overall to make this build viable, so I just have to get a single point in it. However, with just the 4 points in Low Blow, I already have 18% critical chance, which isn't bad at all, especially when you've got 27 bullets in a single mag for the Leo pistol. That's going to give you a decent chance of critting a couple of times each mag. So Low Blow is still a great option. I'd still prefer it over Swan Song or a couple of other places I could put the points in. It's not going to be nearly as consistent as it would be if I could ace it out completely, but it's still going to give you that headshot multiplier occasionally, and sometimes the WA-2000 is going to surprise you and one-shot body shot a cloaker, which is always a good feeling. Now we have Sneaky Bastard. I prefer to ace this one out completely, get that full dead 10% dodge chance, which is amazing. The full dodge chance gives you the absolute maximum dodge you can possibly have, which is a must-have for Deathwish. It's probably the best way of dealing with it. I think armor gets wrecked by those bulldozers. I think that the Grinder build, because damage comes in such strong, short bursts, I don't think Grinder can deal with it. I think Grinder's much better against sustained damage into you. So you're going to have to choose dodge as opposed to anything else. Cap that dodge out at 50. Let's move on to perk decks. I've already mentioned that I choose Rogue, but if we were to go with Grinder, widely considered one of the most powerful perk decks in the game right now, we would not have the same sort of dodge. It would go from 50, as we have right now, to 20, which is like day and night. There's a massive difference between the two. Instead, we go with Rogue, cap out that dodge, and on top of that, we of course get the chance to pierce, which is great with the fast shooting Leo pistol. And again, we have the time at swapping between weapons. Not only is that a great option for you, it's also thematically good. I like the idea being the marksman, being the designated shooter, being able to quickly bring out your pistol, pistol whipping, and moving back out to the sniper, and again, moving forwards with it. It's a very high octane, consistent combat build, and that faster swap time means you're going to be shooting and in combat more frequently, and the marksman aspect of it is just accentuated. So that's why I choose this perk deck above Grinder. Let's move on to our weapons of choice. We have, like I've said, the WA2000, just a single modification in the form of the subtler grip. Increase that concealment, bring the detection risk down to 16, and allow me to get that full 18% crit. 17 is the cutoff point. After 17, when you get to 18 detection risk, you're down to only 15% crit, so it's only downhill from there, and that's why we need the subtler grip. The loss of stability really doesn't matter. One final thing to note, in the gameplay I'm using the military red dot. It's not a bad option. I personally prefer the standard scope, and on top of that, the standard scope doesn't drop concealment and allows me to keep my detection risk as low as possible. Secondary, it's the Leo. I finally got a chance to use this amazing pistol, definitely one of the best pistols in the game. It's a really good option. The reason I don't think it's used enough is because the attachments are hard to pick up. It's got the amazing extended magazine attachment, which allows you to get 27 bullets opposed to 19 per mag, and that is so strong. The reason why it's so strong is because on Deathwish difficulty, with the crit build, you're just going to be able to absolutely unload, and it doesn't touch your detection risk. There are no additional concealment points taken away from you when you put on the extended magazine. Amazing, but so difficult to pick up. You need to do quite a frustrating achievement on the bomb dockyard heist. You have to find the meth lab, which is a random spawn. So it's all down to luck, and I finally picked up that achievement thanks to my achievement grind. But with this weapon, we go Flash Hider, increase that damage, get over that 40 milestone, and some additional stability. Sadly, the only downside with this pistol really is its negative accuracy. The Flash Hider doesn't help that, but we really need to bring it because we don't want to touch our concealment. Gadget, I prefer not to mess around with generally. As I've already said, extended magazine is incredibly powerful. I'd love to bring the sight, but again, don't want to touch my concealment at all. And then finally, the slide. The custom slide's a great option, gives you more damage. Some of you may suggest this is dead damage, especially when you could bring the long slide, giving you more accuracy in dealing with one of the Leo's only problems as a weapon. However, that comes with an incurred -3 concealment, which I am not going to deal with, keeping that detection risk at 16. So that's the Leo. Another really good pistol in this game. It may be outperformed by the Gruber, but I'd rather not just show off the Gruber again. I'd rather show off a different weapon with some different skills and assets to it that you may enjoy messing around with a little more. I really think that it's worlds apart, that mag size of 14 and the mag size of 27. Next up, melee weapon. As I've already mentioned, the buzzer. It's so good on Deathwish. It's going to give you options even when you're out of ammo. No other choice as far as I'm concerned. There may be other higher damage melee weapons, but not only does this keep our concealment at 32, it's also just such a good get out of jail free card. Throwable. Now this is an interesting one. Shurikens are great fun, but they're really only going to be usable on overkill if you ask me. The dynamite, it is an option. It's basically a straight upgrade from frag grenades. It's going to allow you to deal with bulldozers a little easier, going to allow you to deal with shields a little easier, of course coming with that stun factor. But this build already has 1,000,001 options. It's got an incredible DPS to it, so I'd rather stick to what it does best, and that is zone control. Chucking out a Molotov at a choke point is going to be the best thing you can do for this build, and that's why I choose to bring it as my throwable. The two-piece suit, of course, got to accentuate that dodge, bring in that full 50 dodge. Then we have the first aid kits. I've already mentioned why I choose to bring that. More of a necessity than anything else. Of course, having to move up further in the Fugitive skill tree, and that is that for the build. Let's move on to some gameplay. So I've picked out a number of combat scenarios which hopefully will be able to highlight the weapons and the skills used in this build and basically show you how it stands above the rest. The first one you're seeing is the absolutely mad moment in Deathwish Meltdown where for whatever reason every single guard decides to file into the kitchen. Everyone's starving hungry and they don't want you in their kitchen. Simple as that, but you'll notice that I switch. First of all, the Leo puts out a crazy amount of DPS into them at close range. I switch to the sniper to get those kill shots up close and personal using the bullet penetration just to take them all out in far fewer bullets than there are men. But you're going to see that a lot throughout this video. A lot of multi-range combat scenarios. That's what's most important. This build is so good at every range. I think I might have one of my longest kill shots ever. shooting the sniper from one side of Meltdown to the other, but also some of the best moments of up close and personal combat you're going to see. Using run and gun allow me to move forward, take my shots in my stride, but there you're going to see the biggest problem with this build, the long white screen. We got flashbanged and we don't have any skills to deal with the flashbang effect, and that is the primary issue. There's no way to deal with that if you want to build like I do, and that's just the sort of drawback of the build. You're going to see an amazing moment wherein the Pistol Messiah skill, which I actually don't recommend you bring on this build, saves us. Pistol Messiah with Inspire is an amazing combo. Sadly, it's the reason why I was downing, if you ask me, in much of this gameplay was my lack of 100% dodge. Well, I say 100% maximum dodge. And that's what I have in the build that I've redesigned for you guys. This was more of a test model, and fortunately Pistol Messiah allowed me to revive my team there, but the number of times it happens is so few and far between. You'd much rather have that additional survivability rather than the chance to revive yourself, because at the end of the day I feel that just sort of encourages getting down at times when you really can't afford to. You're going to see Inspire just being so useful at all times. Cloakers are such a nightmare on this difficulty, and Inspire is one of the best ways to deal with that problem. If you don't have a teammate with Inspire, you're just going to lose to the Cloakers. There's no two ways about it. The Skull Dozers as well, anything that puts you straight into that completely down position. Another reason why the Pistol Messiah isn't as godlike as it can be on other difficulties, such as Overkill, is undoubtedly the fact that you got Skull Dozers taking you straight down to the completely down state. You've got so many Cloakers, and that really ruins the skill's viability. It's not right here where I actually pick up the sniper, but you can see the collateral possibilities of the sniper coming in handy. You can see the pistol's long range ability. Sometimes it's better to whip out the pistol because of the sniper's really low health pool, but incredible difficulty to hit over range. You might want to just whip out the pistol and see if a couple of pot shots from that amazingly large magazine is going to do it for you. You'll notice also I like to hip fire a lot with the Gruber Kurtz. Its accuracy isn't incredible, so sometimes being able to take a step back and hip firing without aiming down sight is the best way to deal with problem enemies at medium to close range. And that's exactly what I do, especially into large groups, getting up close and personal, making sure I hit those headshots, because it's all about getting that multiplier when you've got the crazy fast fire rate of the Gruber Kurtz. Skull Dozers, Bulldozers, not really a problem with the sniper as long as your accuracy is good and you get rid of that faceplate as quickly as possible. Expect if you're playing with a good team, they're going to blow it off and it's going to be a 1 to 2 shot kill straight to the head. There is the crazy long distance shot, and immediately I get another sight line. Meltdown's a great heist to showcase this weapon on because there's so many really nicely set up lines of sight. Shadow Raid was always a beautiful map for sniper rifles, and I think this sort of it's accentuated on the Meltdown heist, and that's exactly what you're seeing right here. Now I'm not going to talk over all this gameplay, only the most notable shots. Of course, taking out shields as well, another great boon to this weapon, especially if you remember to call them out and get that spotted damage multiplier. But I am actually going to leave you with the pretty exciting conclusion of this heist. I will warn you now, we don't succeed this time around. We're going to be trying again on the next stream to complete this heist in Deathwish. I'm not going to go infamous just yet, not until I have finally defeated Meltdown. Definitely one of the harder Deathwish heists, but also one of the more fun. And here's where I go on the massive no-scoping streak. That feels pretty good. No-scoping in Payday, of course, is 100% random, so it's just more about getting up in their face and praying your shot lands, and then immediately tearing through the bulldozer. Again, with no faceplate, it's not going to take long before they go down to the might of the WA2000, especially now I've got a little bit of crit in this build. So yeah, guys, I'm going to leave you with the remaining gameplay. One final clip I'm going to mention. You're going to see how thematic this build is, you know, going for that scout sniper marksman sat in the trees. I take the shot on one of these 3 guys, get the body shot, and immediately switch out to my Leo and double tap into the face, and that's partially the strategy with this weapon. You don't have to hit those headshots. If you're hitting for the body, make sure you've got your fast swap ability on thanks to Rogue, and you're going to pull out that pistol almost instantaneously and rep those headshots for the easy kill. So here you go, guys, enjoy the rest of the gameplay. It does get pretty intense, and at one point I thought we were going to get it. I try and get to the final car and move it towards the main sort of choke point. Once you're around that choke point, you're basically home dry, and I sadly get into the passenger seat. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you all in the next build video. I'll see you all in the next stream, hopefully. Again, this gameplay is all taken from the stream. Might be why my shot's slightly off. Blame it on the lag. Thanks a lot for watching. See you on the next one.
kit here! First aid kit here! Drop your weapon!
Cover's in a tight spot.
Who's got a medic bag for me? Got
Get the fuck off!
Cloaker, son of a bitch!
Hey, you! Get on your feet!
No more Cloaker!
I owe you a pint of vodka.